Hey guys, welcome back to Quick Notes with Chris. Today we're going to be talking about the book As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. A lot of people actually see this book as one of the foundations of self-development, as a lot of books actually stem from this. It's considered about 99% of books develop majority of their principles from this specific text, which is awesome, and which is why it's probably one of the best reads that you can possibly have, because a lot of foundational quotes and developments that people talk about today actually stem from some of the learnings and teachings that you can actually hear from this book. Today we're just going to be giving a brief rundown on some of the main things that you can learn from it. One of them actually being is that your mind is like a garden. Your mind is like a garden. And what this book really starts to talk about is that just like a garden, if you cultivate it, plant the correct seeds, you'll reap the benefits. And if you leave it there and put it in a poor environment, don't actually worship it, don't actually take care of the prunings and all the stuff that you don't like, weeds will form. And it really talks about how that's how people's minds work. You see, if you actively look towards cultivating it, if you actively look towards increasing it, improving it, of course you're going to bear the fruit. Your garden is going to be very fruitful. There's going to be a lot of benefits from it. But if you fail to adhere to the advice, adhere to the warnings and everything like that, making sure you take care of the weeds, just like weeds, right? If you do nothing, they're going to grow. And that's the same thing that it talks about, how developing a positive environment, making sure that you set the correct habits is going to reap the benefits. You're going to learn to cultivate and harvest by the end of it. And it's really awesome analogy for everything that it sort of talks about. So it also basically starts to stem that we live our lives, our reality, the lifestyle that we live is directly linked to the thoughts that we have, which therefore means that what we think about, on top of mind consciousness, whatever thoughts are on the front of our mind constantly, is going to shape our reality, the types of basically future that we're planning to live. So it talks about the importance of being in control of your thoughts, not letting it be poisoned by the things around you. Once again, going back to that garden analogy, making sure that you're in control of it. You're the one who's placing the seeds that you want there, because if not, someone else will. Or specifically, the environment that you surround yourself will by default affect it. So you want to make sure that you're in control of the environment that you're growing it in, stuff like that. It also talks about taking control, understanding that you are where you are at because of the choices that you made. Like Bill Gates really talks about it. It really sort of joins in conjunction with the book. If you're born poor, it's not your fault. But if you die poor, it is your fault. And it really talks about how your circumstances that you're born into, unfortunately, you don't have control of that. Whether they're good, whether they're bad, you take with what you've got. But the future circumstances, they're all up to your thoughts. They're all up to your choices. Your daily habits will determine your future. The next point that it talks about is that your body is a servant of the mind. Your body is a servant of the mind, means that your body will always have to adhere to whatever your mind tells it to. So if you fill yourself with positive thoughts, the things that you value are going to reflect within your body. If you care about health, your body's obviously going to reflect that. If you care about mental stability, your body's also going to reflect that. It talks about how you can actually overcome a lot of adversities of like personal sicknesses, and a lot of things stem, like in terms of physical sickness, from a negative mindset, from not thinking positively, from not being in control of one's thoughts. So there's a lot of actually excess benefits, rather than not just success and being in emotionally correct states, but also physical health can be affected by your mental stability. It also talks about how your thoughts develop habits, and your habits develop and stabilize your circumstances, which basically means that there is a level of butterfly effect. If you actively think about the correct things, eventually you're developed into the correct habits, and your correct habits are going to develop the lifestyle that you want, or the lifestyle that you're going to have. And if you understand that formula, like I think that, if you play basketball every single day, eventually that's like going to develop, if you think about playing basketball every single day, eventually that's going to develop a habit of playing basketball every single day. And hopefully that'll, like, depending on how far you go with it, you might end up becoming a professional player. It's not rocket science. Now the vice versa is true. If you think about becoming an alcoholic every single day, I think that you have the habitual habit of drinking alcohol every single day. And that's going to result in your circumstances, whether it be, things that you don't necessarily want to be in. So your lifestyle, the way that you're living now, is direct correlation to the thoughts that you think, especially as you're developing as a person. So that, once you understand that, it's not going to be easy. But if you understand where you're at, and it's not exactly where you want to be, the first step is thinking and understanding and keeping on top of your head where it is that you want to be. You have to actively be searching, actively be thinking about the types of situations that you want to be in until it affects your habits, and your habits will affect your circumstances. The next thing it talks about is how aimlessness is a vice. Now, obviously that's a very sort of, different way to put it, but it basically talks about how a lack of purpose in itself is a vice. It itself is something that you shouldn't be doing. How many people find themselves in their, midlife crisis? And the reason that is because a man without purpose is a person who's depressed. A lot of people who are fulfilled are people who have purposes, people who have drive, people who have things that they want to accomplish. Unfortunately, the secret to life has never been found yet, but the secret to happiness is definitely finding a level of purposefulness, right? Whether it's understanding that you're there to look after your family, whether it's understanding that you have a business that you're looking after, you have to have an aim in life. If not, of course, depression is going to follow. The number one cause for depression is actually a lack of purpose. They don't know exactly what it is that they want to do, or they have too much accomplishments in their life. So you have to actively be looking towards a level of fulfillment, whether it be from day to day, week to week, you have multiple things that you're looking towards accomplishing in order to basically make sure that aimlessness is never a vice for you. The other thing that it talks about is whenever it comes to, once you understand that these are the issues that you have and your thoughts are going to affect your circumstances and so on and so on and so on, you can't actually help someone who won't participate in their own rescue. Only a person who's willing to help themselves can actually be saved. And it really talks about making sure that you understand that you can only help people who want to help themselves. You can't just throw a life after someone who doesn't want to take it, okay? You don't want to waste your time with people who don't personally actually want to be saved, but that also might be you. That might not just be someone else. That also has to be you. You cannot take advantage. You cannot take basically control of your life unless you're wanting to. Someone else can't do it for you. At some point, you have to understand that this is your life. Where do you want to be? Right? If that's not where you're at, you need to start making changes. You can't expect someone else to do that for you, and you can't do that for someone else if they don't want it themselves. So it's a waste of time to not help people who aren't willing to help themselves. If anything, it's actually detrimental to their own personal success, because someone is constantly giving you handouts, or you're constantly giving someone else handouts, they won't value them. And in order to value them, you need a level of scarcity. So it's best for the both of you not to waste time on each other. Or if it's yourself, make sure you understand where it is exactly where you want to be, because you have to be in the right mindset whenever it is towards improvement, okay? The next thing it talks about is gifts are a fruit of effort, not luck. Gifts are a fruit of effort, not luck. So that basically talks about how whenever you see someone becoming successful, it isn't luck. It actually has nothing to do with luck. In fact, it has everything to do with probability. Now, everybody has different levels of success in terms of the careers or industries that they go into. But the one thing that is constant is that there is a probability of success. Basically, what I'm talking about is that the person who fails the most is the most likely to be successful. There's going to be a level of probability, so the way that you go about becoming successful is that rolling that dice. The average millionaire has failed 7 businesses. The average millionaire has failed 7 businesses. So what that tells you is that if you haven't failed one yet, and you're trying to become successful, you're trying to be a multi-millionaire, you're going to have to double your rate at failure. You're going to have to fail more. There is so much learning in failure than there ever is in succeeding, that the key to actually success is failing faster. Fail forward, right? There's no such thing as losses, only learning. That type of mindset. Which brings us to the overall theme of the thing, overall theme of the book. It talks about growth mindsets versus fixed mindsets. A fixed mindset is fixed on circumstances. They don't think they can ever become better. They get down in the dumps and they think that their circumstances are essentially the universe putting them where they are at. There's nothing that they can do in order to become better. How many people do you know that you've met who blame their circumstances on something else other than themselves? They never take responsibility for the situation that they're at, and honestly, they end up becoming stuck where they're at. Well, there's a reason for that, and the reason is because if you don't take responsibility and you don't recognize that there is something that you could have gotten better and transition into a growth mindset, which is all about understanding that everything is a learned skill, right? Every baby didn't, Michael Jordan, I always go back to basketball, obviously, because that's just my personal interest, but Michael Jordan, he was a baby just like everybody else. Now, sure, there was a genetic, gifts and stuff like that, but in terms of his skill set, that was learned, meaning that everything is a learned skill. If you look at the best public speakers, the best people, the best athletes, the best coders, at some point, they all started from a baby, and everything can be a learned skill, which means that as long as you take responsibility, as long as you understand that your circumstances are temporary, right? Circumstances are rulers of the weak and tools to the wise. If you can take advantage of your circumstances, understand that they are temporary, they are not there to hold you down, and you can overcome them, then eventually success is a matter of time. Success is a matter of time. You're not going to be held down from anyone else. Well, that's pretty much it for Quick Notes with Chris. We are going to be reviewing a few more books in the future, so don't just let it stop there. But to summarize the book so far, it's all about growth mindsets versus fixed mindsets. Understand your mind is a garden. Whatever you cultivate is whatever you're going to reap the benefits in the harvest. If you live it and you do nothing, your thoughts will actively create your habits, and your habits will create your circumstances. If you do not like your circumstances, revert back to your thoughts. Understand what it is that you're thinking and what is it on top of your mind. Anyways, that's it for Quick Notes with Chris. We do have other videos coming onto the channel, so don't let your self-improvement stop there, and always keep learning to better put yourself in a position for success.